This episode is brought to you by Alumni Q. For over 20 years, Alumni Q has been partnering with higher education institutions to build real, lasting connections that drive engagement, whether through events, volunteer management, or personalized fundraising strategies. Their software is designed to meet busy, accomplished alumni where they are, making it easier to connect, communicate, and involve them in meaningful ways. From personalized event experiences to targeted communications, Alumni Q ensures your constituents feel seen and valued. With 96% of clients staying with them long-term, Alumni Q's active support and responsive development make sure you always have the tools you need when you need them. If you're looking for a trusted partner that truly understands higher education and is committed to helping your institution succeed, consider Alumni Q, powering the connections that last. Visit alumniq.com to learn more. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for listening to Alumless for Friday, June 6, 2025. This is the Reimagining New Grad Engagement Edition. I'm Ryan Catherwood. I am joined by very special guests today. Filling in for Chris Marshall is the incomparable Kim Infanti. Hey, Kim, how are you?
Good morning, Ryan. I'm great. I'm better now. Should we tell people the technical difficulties we were having?
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a palpitation there, but we made it.
We made it. Yeah, no, it was definitely StreamYard playing a trick on me in the background there. So I'm glad we sorted it out with all that. But sorry for being a couple minutes late, live listening audience. If you are listening live, we would love for you to say hello in the comments section of the LinkedIn event and let us know where you're dialing in from today. Dialing in is probably not the right word anymore. Right? That sounds like on the show we talk about engagement strategies and education and advancement. As I said, we are live today with our special guest, Matt James from the Marshall University Foundation. If you're tuning in, definitely let us know where you're tuning in from. Thank you to Steve Rittler and the team at Alumni Q for their partnership and being a presenting sponsor of Alumless. All right, Kim, thanks for filling in today. I was excited about the show to talk a bit about today's topic because it is the end of the year. It is just past commencement. Lots of teams kind of coming down off of what is a pretty frantic time of year sometimes, right? With all the spring events. But let's talk a little bit about some of those, we'll call them a genre of engagement strategies, programs, initiatives that happen this time of year. They're around graduation and they're touch points with new grads. What do you think about when you think about those types of programs?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for what we just did here at Syracuse. There was a change this year. Our bookstore did cap and gown a lot earlier. Typically, it's leading up to commencement in May, like that week prior to commencement. But this year, the bookstore decided to do it in March, which gave us a nice opportunity to partner with them to be present at cap and gown pickup. We were honestly a little worried about how these caps and gowns would survive from a March pickup to May, but the graduates did it. They got to take their pictures early. And more importantly, we got to deliver some of the alumni message. My role is, as you know, alumni engagement and annual giving now. So it was nice to have that touch point with them in March as opposed to waiting till May, like that in-person cap and gown touch point. And then we have a little PTSD, but also it was awesome. For the first time this year, we partnered with the team that oversees commencement. And at every seat at commencement had a tiny little business card with their alumni pin on it and a QR code on the back linking to the opportunities for them to stay forever orange. And for us this year, we had just launched the Ask Orange alumni tool with Protopia. So that was that great first touch point for them to learn about that. And we placed 4,800 of them, but who's counting? And we had about 30 left over, like when they actually did clean up for commencement. So the students took them because they loved that little takeaway of the pin. So that was nice for us. And of course, we're working on some other things, but that's enough for that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, there's always some really interesting programs around commencement that transition from student to alumni. You mentioned a couple of key important messages that you all look to communicate to the graduating seniors. Maybe like what is the key message? I mean, there's so many things we want to tell them, right? We want them to know so much. Like, how do you sort of distill down into the most important things?
I think today, and like more than ever before, it's that your degree, the value of your degree last way longer than your time, those 4 years that you have on campus. And our job in the alumni office is to show you the value that you still receive from your degree so many years later. And that, especially in this career environment, and I know we'll talk about that later, Syracuse is here for your career. That's one of the main messages that we give out. And like, it's not something that AI can do for you. Alumni connections are not something that can be, robotic. It has to be real, true relationships, and those can be formed with the assistance of AI. But like, there's things that we really can provide to our graduating seniors that, key or the newest technology cannot necessarily do. So that's big for us. Like, we're here, and your degree is forever. You are forever orange, and your degree will always have value.
Yeah, that's definitely the key message. And the people, right, that you have access to. A reminder, because you had access to those same people while you were a student. But well, let's bring out Matt. But before we do, I just want to say a quick hello to those folks who chimed in. Noelle from the University of Roanoke, Adriana from UTEP, Kira from Rhode Island, Aaron from the University of Missouri, St. Louis, Michelle from Penn State, and Chuck from the University of Illinois, Springfield. Thank you so much, you guys, for dialing in today. Really appreciate it. All right, let's bring out
Michelle
Matt
from
James.
York College too. Don't forget Michelle. We forgot Michelle, and also Michelle from Penn State. We stole.
Oh, there's two Michelles in a row. Yep.
We stole the alumni pin idea from Penn State. So Michelle, thank you. I'm very glad you're here. Thank you.
Well, welcome to the show, Matt James. Matt is the Vice President of Alumni Relations at the Marshall University Foundation. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking some time away from your foundation board meeting today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know the aesthetic is not great. I'm in my hotel room, but I'm happy to be with you guys today.
So this is not, you said, not an on-campus meeting. You were on a retreat, right?
Yeah, so I'm at a state park in Wheeling, West Virginia. It's beautiful. It's Oglebay, if folks aren't familiar. And so, just the perks of the job, getting to come to a beautiful park in the summer to meet with our board. But I'd much rather be talking to you all than be in the finance committee right now with our board. So
fair enough. It does sound like a good spot to take a break from the for the board meetings. So before we get started on our topic for today, share a little bit about your pathway to Marshall and what makes Marshall such a unique institution.
Yeah, so I'm a product of Marshall. I grew up in the state of West Virginia. I was born and raised here. And so we're the little brother. Marshall is the little brother in the state of West Virginia. WVU, obviously our flagship school. I'm a two-time graduate of Marshall. And so I will tell you, most people probably are familiar with Marshall from a movie, We Are Marshall, or a plane crash that happened in 1970. That's very much part of our story. The community, the school rebuilt after that crash. We lost all 75 people on board. I'm actually wearing our 75 family alumni chapter. Sorry, I'm looking at myself backwards. Our alumni chapter shirt today. And so we honor our 75 in everything we do. I think that describes our institution, our resiliency. It's also kind of the resiliency of the people. It speaks to that, the people of our state. And so Marshall really does serve a specific purpose. Regionally, we support many students who may not have access to another institution. Historically, we have provided a pathway to education for many first-generation college students just like me. So Marshall's a really special niche kind of institution. Everyone says they're a family, but at Marshall, it means something a little bit different, and I think that's because of our story.
Amazing. Matt, so in preparation for this episode, we talked about potential topics, and it definitely bubbled to the top, this topic, this new grad engagement, and that's really been a focus for you. What's prompting that focus other than the time of the year it is? Is there anything that's really making you think about this in a more strategic way than you have in the past?
Yeah, honestly, so I've been in this job for a little over 2 years, but my entire career has been in higher education. I'm a former student affairs dean. I had a daughter 3 years ago. My wife and I welcomed this baby. And so this just seemed like a more natural work schedule with expectations, but I stayed at Marshall. To answer your question, my experience when I first graduated, and this has been the experience until I came into this position at Marshall, your first touch point was at Countdown to Commencement. And so this is that pre-graduation ceremony event that all schools do, right? You come and you pay for your diploma. You meet with the folks at the bookstore to get your cap and gown, various other services. If you have an outstanding debt, you pay that to the finance office. And then the very last station every year was the Alumni Association. And I'll never forget my interaction with that group. I am from a middle-class family. I had a little bit of student loan debt. I just paid for my diploma. I just paid for my cap and gown. And the Alumni Association said, "Congratulations, would you like a t-shirt?" And I said, "Of course I want one of those t-shirts." And they said, "Please make a gift." That stuck with me. And I just don't think, and we all know this, we can't start any relationship talking about money. It's not natural. I'm a millennial. It didn't speak well to our generation. It definitely doesn't speak well to our current students. And so when I took this job, I really was firm in the fact that we've got to find a way to capture our students before they even graduate, so they understand that alumni does not necessarily just mean money. We all know that, right? So it's always donor engagement and alumni engagement. They have to work together. But many times people forget that in order to get folks into the donor cycle, we've got to build affinity for the institution. And we don't do that by starting to ask for money right when our students graduate. And so what's prompting my thought, obviously, we just got through the monster that is commencement, right? We continue to think, how can we continually strategize and touch these students even earlier. So this year, we're actually going to be at new student orientation. We get 2 minutes in the morning, myself and our very engaged alumni director. I'll tell you a little bit about him later, a relevant topic. But we're going to have 2 minutes to just talk about a culture of philanthropy. So a high majority of our students, because of where we are and who we serve, they are on some type of financial aid. They receive scholarships. And so just asking students and their parents, again, we're a familial institution. Many alums bring their children to Marshall. And so having the students see, my parents graduated with the help of scholarships. I'm also here because of the Pathway scholarships that provided me. So we're starting that conversation a little differently so that when they graduate, if they're a product of scholarships, there's then that natural feeling of responsibility that when I'm in a place in my life to do this, I can give back. So we start that conversation in a more natural way at the beginning of their career at Marshall before they even, become seniors and are thinking about graduating. We want them to start thinking about life as an alum, and it's not always about money.
Matt, I love that. And I think that's a testament to you and your ability to have relationships across campus, because I think sometimes the new student orientation teams can look at the alumni team and say an immediate no, because you're just going to ask them. And so that's, I think, a testament to you and relationships and trust that you've built up. So kudos to you first on that.
Hey, Kim, you're right. Not to interrupt you. We got a no last year and I didn't go away. So I went back to them and I said, "What's it going to take to give me 2 minutes?" Because I used to run orientation, right? In student affairs, I understood, you don't have a lot of time, but this is important. So we're doing an alumni mixer at orientation this year to welcome folks. It also gives those parents something to do while the students are doing their orientation bit. So it's a give and take, and you're right, it is about relationships. How can I help your office with your mission? But also we need a little bit of access.
Awesome. Now, alongside relationships goes technology and the innovations that we're seeing. And I don't know if you're like me, but I feel like I'm drinking from the fire hose and trying desperately to stay on top of every day. There's a new development in AI or a new platform. So what kind of innovations or changes are you seeing that's making the student to alumni transition a bit easier, a bit better to execute, or even, I guess, more meaningful student to alumni transition?
Yeah, so for ours, software, technology, all of those things, we have been way behind at the Marshall Foundation. So we were still using a homegrown artificial intelligence system that was literally built by one of our former chief intelligence officers, rather. So we're currently moving towards softwares that are tried and true, looking at People Grow, for example, and finding different ways that are not necessarily innovative for folks on this call. But Marshall, we just had a lot of potential we were never fulfilling with our alumni base. I want to be more specific to how we're being innovative. So I talked about how do we reach this new generation of graduates, this Gen Z population. I had heads turning last year when I hired our youngest director in the history of the school. He's 23 years old, but he was this stellar student body president. He was a representative throughout the state on our board of governors. He actually pushed forward legislation to get a bill passed for food insecurity for our college campuses. So he had exhibited this leadership, and he had all of these relationships already on campus, right? As you talked about. It's a lot easier for me to put Walker in front of a group of his peers and talk about what it's like to get engaged as an alum versus even me, who's 15 to 20 years older than them, and then anyone else, right, that's older than me. So we're really strategic. When we want to engage young alums, we've hired a young alum. And so we're going to continue to look at how do we reach our students and how do we reach our alumni. I should tell you too, when I took this job, our entire alumni team at Marshall had been decimated. So the pandemic happened at the same time due to attrition and folks leaving the institution. There was no alumni team for 7 months. So our alumni board of directors kind of fell off. Our alumni chapters were down to 6. We're up to 31 now. So we've really kind of built this from scratch. And it's been a good opportunity, again, right, to rebrand this office and find a different way to engage our alums.
Thinking about how recent graduating seniors, right, want to be engaged, it typically requires partnerships. You mentioned orientation, but also partners on campus like career services and then other units on campus, including faculty and department partnerships. Can you talk a little bit about some of those partnerships that are crucial in sort of helping with this student to alumni transition as partners with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So academic affairs and career services, as you said, we work with them very closely, not just with the countdown to commencement piece, but we have actually been embedded into our academic advising model. And so at Marshall, we consider it a two-pronged approach. When students come to Marshall, they are paired with at least 2 mentors in a way. So they've got an academic advisor and then a peer mentor, right? By the time they become a rising senior, they are now going to still have their academic advisor. And that second person is an alumni mentor. We had no software, as I mentioned. And so we started building just from a Microsoft form. And that's what I want to encourage anyone on the call today. So if you are building things like we are doing that at Marshall, you just have to start somewhere. Because, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. You just have to start, and then you can start tracking those things. So at Marshall, we really wanted to find a way, again, how do we get these touch points? And so when they started talking about alumni mentoring, well, we just kind of crept in and said, why don't we become the two-pronged approach for our seniors? And so at this point, it's becoming a really cool kind of relationship because it's a give and take, and we're building this together and getting feedback from our students. So we piloted a mentor program last year. We're really excited to implement, hopefully, People Grove this summer. That will make that job a lot easier. I think we're going to talk about athletics in just a little bit, but I think we all have to be honest with ourselves that athletics, and my colleagues hate when I say this, but it's true, athletics is the sexy part of being an alumnus for most alums at most institutions. It's also the easiest way to grab folks that may not otherwise be engaged with the institution because it's a universal, thing to come back and go to homecoming or to go to games. And so when I took this job, it was very odd to me that there was almost a very clear war between athletics and the Alumni Association, right? And between our Big Green Student Athlete Scholarship Foundation and our foundation. And so I explained to my colleagues at the foundation, we have to work with athletics. It is not an option. We cannot engage our alums if we don't have a true working relationship with athletics. And so within this new era of NIL and the transfer portal, especially with NIL, they need more support. And so we found ways to shift some of our sponsorship dollars over to help where it makes sense and we can engage more alums. So athletics has been a huge ally and resource for us. I mentioned orientation, so student affairs. We've worked closely with them, obviously with homecoming. But where we've really tapped in as well is we're all recruiters, right? We should all, especially sometimes alumni are the best recruiters you can have because they're not paid to say anything, just talk about their experiences and the people that they met with. So we've started working really closely with our Office of Recruitment and Enrollment Management. We deploy our alumni regionally throughout the country. The chapter network helps with this, but we send our chapters into high schools to recruit at high school fairs. And we also send our alums to present scholarships and awards at these end of the year ceremonies. It helps because we're all low staffed. So when we can get volunteers to do these things, I think that, that helps us be even more strategic and intentional. So those are probably the top 3 partnerships we have on campus.
Yeah, important. And you actually mentioned something really important too, which was how you're thinking about tone and messaging, right? We talked a little bit about your experience as a graduating senior in that memorable moment when you were asked for money when you weren't feeling in that headspace, right? And how we need to sort of make inroads from the beginning of a student experience so that when that culminates with commencement, that we can deliver the right messaging with the right tone, which still may not be about philanthropy, right? How do you think about messaging and philanthropy and setting the right tone with graduating seniors and even recent graduates? You mentioned thinking about how we're talking to them about philanthropy.
So I mentioned earlier how we start the conversation, right? Countdown to commencement now. We're no longer a table with T-shirts. We actually have volunteers from our alumni board and our local alumni chapter. We don't sit behind tables. We stand. It's basically like a little welcoming committee. So when they get to the end of that line, we're welcoming them to the alumni family, right? And the network. We're giving them a little bit of swag, but we're collecting their information right then and there. They don't even understand that we're gathering what we need, the data we need to interact with them later by having an informal conversation where they don't feel like we're trying to sell them something. We're just asking them, so what's your degree in? And as they're filling out this form, where are you going? What's your dream job? What was your experience like at Marshall? What were you involved in? That conversation then continues. They've already interacted with this group of folks. Then at commencement, they see the same group of people after they cross the stage. We are literally a welcoming committee, and we have custom shirts. Now, I know giving graduates T-shirts is not a unique idea, but what we do is we have a custom design of a retro logo. Everyone wants the old school logos now, right? This is made by a partner we've made in the community, one of our sporting goods stores. They don't sell these shirts in the stores, and then we have them all paid for by sponsors on the back that we've generated. So this is something that's totally free for us. Our first touch point is no longer give us $5 for a T-shirt. Let us give you this cool custom T-shirt. Our Alumni Association president is on the stage at commencement, reminding them that we've got this gift for you. We want you to be a part of our family. The conversation and the tone is, we want you to stay involved. And when folks say how, it's not just getting involved in a chapter. It's volunteer experiences, right? Obviously, signing up as a mentor, but we want them to understand the word alumni, because many students, they feel that that just means money. And so helping them see all of the other things involved with being an alumni, I think is really critical. So we also did turn, and I should say, the graduation shirts, we flipped that into a revenue generating opportunity. So we are green, Marshall's Kelly Green. We give the graduates the design in green, and then we open an online store because the first year we did this, all of the parents and family members wanted one of those shirts because it's a really cool, it's like we're the thundering herd, right? So we're a bison. It's a really cool old school bison walking across the stage in a cap and gown. Everybody wants this shirt. So we sell them in different colors, just not green, online. So we made several $1,000s a couple of weeks ago just selling these shirts online. So it's a few things we're doing.
Love it.
Yeah. Kim, you've been with Syracuse for a while now. You've had the chance to watch and try different types of programs and initiatives in this space that some work. You described a few at the beginning of the show that did, and maybe it's some that you've watched, tried, and then discontinued. But what seems to work at Syracuse in terms of engaging students in this transition, or even young grads?
Yeah, I think on the young grads perspective, we try in several different cities, SU Day at, and then it's whatever the sports team is in that city. So coming up June 21st, it's SU Day at the Yankees. And because they went to Syracuse University, they have exclusive access to a special section of Yankee Stadium, purchase their tickets. And the big draw for them is it's a co-branded hat with Syracuse University and the Yankees. Now, neither of you are from New York and you don't understand the Yankees in New York, but this is a really big deal to graduates, and many of them are moving to New York City. And we've set it up so that a portion of their registration for SU Day counts as a gift towards Syracuse University and goes towards our Competitive Excellence Fund, which supports athletics. So that's a really nice partnership with athletics. And that works like no matter where you SU Day at the Rockies, SU Day at, a smaller team. It doesn't have to be an NFL or an NBA or an MLB or one of those major league teams. So that's nice for us. And then just, right before commencement, and I definitely agree with Matt, like it cannot be that ask for money. This year we partnered in our senior celebration. Unfortunately, we had to move it from outside to inside, but we had our student experience team, we had the career services team, we had alumni engagement and annual giving, and we had a little passport. And each time a student stopped at one of the different stations, for all of our departments who are clamoring for their attention, they got a stamp on their passport. And then once they filled out their, we'll call it a passport, then they got a coupon for the food trucks that were waiting outside for them. And that was a definite incentive to stop at all of our tables so that they could get their food coupon. But at our table, it wasn't just an ask for money. We do certainly offer that opportunity to make a gift to Syracuse. We offer them a cord to wear at commencement to show that they're a donor. They love that.
Cords are very popular. I feel like they haven't always been so, but at this moment, sort of the alumni cord, right?
Yeah, and then we had also a giant map where they could quickly put where they're moving to. We asked them for their name, their email address, and the city they were going to. lesson learned, we will have a giant New York State next year, and then the rest of the country will be very small because most of our alumni go to New York.
Too many pins in New York. It got cluttered.
They broke them out.
Oh, it was like the Northeast was pent. And then a few of them ended up in the ocean because they were going internationally, and we didn't really account for that. So we'll change that for next year. Nobody's going to be in the ocean. Anyway, Matt, I want to ask you, now that I've shared some in-person examples, as you think about reaching grads on their phones, which they are addicted to, obsessed with, and on all the time, how do you pop in this land of like a gajillion emails, that's an official number, and all these tweets, and well, maybe not X's anymore, or whatever, Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, like how does your team try and reach them digitally and not in person?
Okay, so all the pain points you just mentioned, we experience. So, tried and true, and you learn your lessons. So we collect information just like you all do. It's basically a senior celebration, our countdown to commencement. But what we've learned is when we make a phone call, and our annual fund office, when they cold call people to ask for money, like nobody's going to answer a caller ID that says the Marshall University Foundation. Nobody's going to answer that when it says the Alumni Association. Same thing with a text message. So what we've tried to do is really our membership committee on our Alumni Association Board of Directors and our staff, where we can build capacity. When we collect not just emails, we ask for preferred cell phone. And so we'll send a personalized text message sometime, because it gives our volunteers plenty of weeks, and we distribute the list, but anytime in between the senior ceremony and commencement to make a touch point with that student. So then it's a familiar, you're already building the relationship, but they're not really fully aware that this is someone working for the school or volunteering on behalf of alumni. So we're trying to build that relationship naturally. When students cross the stage, we are automatically having them scan in, and they don't even know, but we're having them scan in, and we're adding them to our Facebook group. So they're automatically, if they have a Facebook account, we're adding them. We also have Instagram as well.
That's an interesting one. I don't think I've heard of that one before.
So we're having them join the group to get their T-shirt, right, to walk through. Okay. So they think it's a rite of passage, like I'm joining it, and then all of a sudden it's just another way to spam them if we have to get the information. But I will tell you, email is the toughest way. We have learned that the most effective way that I've noticed, and I know it's simple, but really has been through LinkedIn and our Alumni Association through LinkedIn, because I think, especially Gen Z, it's just a more transactional generation, and I understand that. And so sometimes, and this is why I love working with a 23-year-old, he's going to say, well, what's in it?
Uh-oh, did we lose Matt's Wi-Fi a bit?
He was saying, and that's why I have a 23-year-old, because they're going to ask, like, what's in it for me on all of our potential programs or initiative, which is a great thought. And we should all have a recent grad on our team. But well, let's do this, Kim. Let's wrap up the live show, and then we'll see if we can find Matt and his Wi-Fi for the bonus section where we don't need to record our video, because it's just the audio. And but before we do that, we're going to just tease our next couple episodes here. Next week, we've got Jocelyn Kelty, who's the director of the Australia office for Richmond and Associates, which is a global recruitment firm. That's going to be on Alumless World next Friday. And then we have Ted Probert from the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation. He's going to be on June 20th. So we've got a great couple episodes coming up. Looks like we've got Matt back after a temporary glitch in internet from his cabin in retreat. So we're glad to have you back, Matt. We're going to record our bonus segment just after the break. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in today.